thanking each and every one of you for the choice you've made to work or volunteer for the Alzheimer's Association. You may not realize how your work deeply impacts the lives of everyone affected by the disease. Those of us living with dementia, those who care for us, whether they are spouses, partners, family members, caregivers, and those who support them. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do. What inspired you to do the work you do may be a personal story you've heard, or it could be your own personal connection to the disease through a family member or a friend. My fight against Alzheimer's stems from my family's history with the disease, and now my personal journey living with Alzheimer's. In April 2009, I was a public defender with a heavy caseload because I was the only Spanish-speaking attorney in the office. I was also busy as president of the County Bar Association and as an actor in local theater and independent films. But on that particular day in April, I was looking forward to towing my little sailboat to the marina in Everett, Washington for an all-day sail the following day. As usual, I took the back roads home from the office while listening to All Things Considered on NPR. But when I reached the four-way stop near my home, I realized I didn't know where I was. Do I turn right, left, or do I go straight? I was disoriented and frightened. I panicked, and as a range of emotions and questions began taking over me. Where was I? How do I get home? I was alone at that crossroad. I told myself to relax, but it was impossible. I couldn't remember where I was. I pulled out my cell phone and called my daughter, Gina. As a mother of 3 children, she responded with calm assurances. In my panic, I kept saying, I don't know where I was. I don't know where I am. I don't know where I am. She asked me to name the road I was on, but I couldn't remember it. And then suddenly, it all came back. My memory came back. I remembered where I was. And then I said to her, never mind. The incident only took a few minutes, but it felt like an hour. The following week, I made an appointment with my longtime doctor, Dr. Martnick, who ordered all kinds of tests, including MRI, PET scans, cognitive testing, lots of blood work, and other tests. The results indicated that nothing was wrong with me. The neuropsychologist told me that my memory tested in the 98th percentile. During the following 6 months, there were 4 or 5 occasions when I would find myself lost while driving on familiar roads. I just kept driving while looking for clues, and within a few minutes I was able to recognize my location. Then on Thanksgiving Day 2009, I went to my daughter's house for dinner, turkey dinner, with the rest of my family, including my granddaughter who sat here with me. After dinner, I felt a little overwhelmed with the din of voices from my loved ones and decided I wanted to go home. But as I put my hand on the doorknob to leave, I suddenly I didn't realize where I was. My family became concerned, and my son-in-law, he drove me home the 2 miles to my house. And the following week, I called Dr. Martnick, and he agreed to see me immediately. You see, my father was one of 13 children. He and 6 of his siblings died with symptoms of younger-onset Alzheimer's. I'm the 4th oldest of the cousins. My oldest cousin died a few months ago. And the 3rd cousin is in the late stages of Alzheimer's disease. They began to show symptoms of their mid-40s, including my father's generation. So when I turned 60, I thought I was safe. Of the 5 oldest cousins, 4 are currently living with Alzheimer's or have died from the disease. Because of my extensive family history with Alzheimer's, Dr. Martinick encouraged me to pursue genetic testing. At that time, there were the 3 known genes that could cause Alzheimer's, and testing was expensive, so it took me a couple of months to put together the funding to pay for the DNA tests. Dr. Martinick then drew blood and sent it in to be analyzed. Athena Diagnostics determined I had inherited the presenilin-1 gene, which, as you know now, is a gene mutation associated with the dominantly inherited familial form of Alzheimer's disease. Testing also showed that I have the ApoE3 gene. At that moment, when I heard that I had it, a flood of emotions surged through me, ranging from relief to despair. But despair didn't last long because the warrior in me took over. You see, I have 4 grandchildren and 7 grandchildren. 4 children and 7 grandchildren. I want to do all I can to help them find a cure, or at least something to stop the progression of Alzheimer's. Statistically speaking, with my family's history, half or 2 of my daughters and some of my grandchildren will inherit the gene. To stay strong, to fight for a cure, I follow best practices. I eat a Mediterranean diet, I exercise, stay mentally and socially active, and take Namenda and the Exelon patch as prescribed. I also use aromatherapy and I meditate. Since that day in 2009, when I came to the 4-way stop, I have experienced very mild changes in my symptoms. However, this past October and November, I underwent 2 back surgeries, whether it was the assault on my body from the surgery or the anesthesia. I found myself experiencing more changes in my cognition. After returning from the hospital, there were occasions when I could not find what I would get lost in my own apartment. And I had trouble speaking because I couldn't remember words. I was also in a great deal of pain because of nerve damage. I stopped eating and ended up losing nearly 25 pounds. Since then, I've gained 5 back, and I'm working on staying there. Some days I feel like my old self, but I have experienced where I will be if a cure or something to stop the progression of the disease doesn't come along soon. In the 3 years since my diagnosis, I've been involved in several studies, 2 that are ongoing longitudinal studies, Diane, of course. One is with the Veterans Administration Hospital in Seattle, which mostly involves memory testing and a physical periodically, and the other, of course, the Diane, as Dr. Bateman has discussed with you. The past July was my 3rd year in Diane. Dr. John Ringman, who conducts a study in Los Angeles, pokes and prods, including spinal taps, PET scans, and grueling memory testing, but it's all well worth it for me. My youngest daughter accompanied me to the first time I went to LA for the study, and she agreed to have her DNA tested. She also chose to learn the results of the test, and it turns out that she does not carry the gene. That is a blessing. The Diane study has impacted my life in oh so many ways. It has allowed me to be proactive in fighting this disease. It keeps me believing that there is hope for a cure or something to stop the progression. And it makes me feel like I'm making a difference for my children, my grandchildren, and everyone else who would otherwise have or get plaques and tangles in their brains. I have also bequeathed my brain for research purposes upon death. Not before. The Alzheimer's Association has also affected my life in so many ways. It has allowed me to meet some incredible people, including others with the disease, caregivers, and of course those of you who volunteer and work for the Alzheimer's Association. I want to particularly acknowledge Bob Leroy, Carrie Pollock, Anita Sousa, and Shirley Vanderbilt, who were my first contact with the Alzheimer's Association in the state of Washington. I also want to acknowledge all the other staff members of the chapter, without whom I could not avail myself to the richness of the association's resources. Thank you. And finally, thank you to those of you around the country who support and partner with field staff. In particularly, I want to acknowledge Monica Moreno and Emily Schubeck. Bless you all and thank you.